Hello, assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And we are now going to discuss something that may sound a bit strange, but at the same time, I think anybody who's from Pakistan at least, will know that this is exactly probably a reflection of their own thoughts. We keep on talking about Gen Z and this and that. To be honest, in Pakistan, generations and generational gap doesn't matter when it comes to um, speaking up for one's rights or when it comes to fighting against the system, to be honest. Our biggest problem as millennials, if we go into generation, sorry, and if you've heard all of my, podcasts that I've done over the years, you will know that one of my biggest pet peeves was that the millennials have had to suffer the most, you know. The millennials or the zennials, whatever you like to call them, both of them have suffered in their own right. Both of them have struggled. But I think we have suffered the most because the boomers were just not leaving us alone. The problem with the boomers is they have literally taken over the world. They're the ones that began the whole system of corruption, of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. They're the ones who began the whole, this socializing concept where you socialize and make connections, where you have to join clubs and, you have cliques and you have this and you have that. And they thought that they were probably being very, very, whatever it is that these psychos thought they, because I think that whole generation was psychopathic, to be honest. I think that generation single-handedly has led to the downfall of our whole civilization. Seriously. Talk about morally, religiously, socially, economically, anything. Just put anything in, and you will trace it back to that generation. And this is why I say that we were screwed over multiple times, and not just us, but the next two generations have been screwed over by them. They have literally acted like Yajuj Majuj, to be honest. If you look at the definition of Yajuj Majuj and how they will come and they'll finish all the water in the land and they will gobble everything up and they will render the land barren because they'll just eat and drink everything up. Yeah, this is our Yajuj Majuj, in that context, because this is exactly what they've done and they're still doing it. They're not stopping, But in Pakistan, the problem is that regardless of generations, this mindset has gone through generations. I would have thought that our generation was different because we had to struggle the most. And as I said, we had the most losses, where we studied the most, we struggled the most, and we got the least. And joblessness and lack of job opportunities began at our time. And again, it was our generation that created job opportunities out of thin air, so to speak, as in creating business, creating the means to start a business without having any money in your pocket. It was our generation that sat and made, online, the whole online concept of where you can work remotely, where you can start your own business if you just have a mobile, where you can work as an employee from wherever you're sitting at to under any other organization in any part of the world. I mean, this was our generation kind of made these new job and business opportunities, right? But once again, when control is taken over, and who else but the boomers, the dinosaurs, who themselves have no concept whatsoever of it, but now they've taken over the whole social media platform concept. They've taken over. Again, one would argue it's because they would probably say we funded it. The elites of that generation, who are still on top of all of us, who are ruling us all over the world, they would say that, oh, yes, guess what? But we are the ones who financed it. We're the ones who... Why? Because, again, the concept of internet actually was not even discovered or invented by our own generation. This was, again, something that already existed, but in the form of intranet. It existed in the 50s. It existed in the 60s. It existed in the 70s. Heck, the first computer was brought into the market in the 70s, and I know that because my dad bought the first computer, and it was literally just a keyboard, and that keyboard housed everything in it, and you could attach it to any TV and turn that TV into a monitor. You understand? It was very compact. It was literally just slightly larger than your mobile today or your tablet. It was literally as big as your tablet. That keyboard was your motherboard, and that keyboard was your hard drive, and your keyboard was everything. Basically everything was stored in that. And what I'm trying to say is, actually technology was far advanced before, and they're deliberately dumbing it down. You understand? They're deliberately dumbing technology down, and restricting its uses in many ways. It's like if you compare today's fridges with the fridges of the 1950s, or the 1960s, even the 1980s. So they have dumbed down technology, right? So as I'm saying, it's not about in Pakistan, it's not about Gen Z. In Pakistan, this mindset of corruption, the mindset of cowardice, the mindset of selfishness, of narcissism, it goes through generations. So you will see every single generation push through with dishonesty. You will see them push through with corruption, because, as I said, it's regardless of generation. This whole mentality that has led the Pakistanis to where we are today. And I've talked about many causes as well. In fact, even in my recent podcast, I once again reminded everybody that I've done about 4 to 5 different podcasts on parenting and toxic parenting. And then I did one latest in that series. I did that latest podcast where I explained why our government and why our army and why our police force are the way they are, because it begins at home. That toxicity, that narcissism, that abuse of power, that imperialistic attitude, it begins at home, right? From parents and from grandparents, and then the whole, joint family system, and the whole toxic culture. And don't think that it is a fight. In Pakistan, it's not a fight between Gen Z and the army. If anything, this was a fight that was begun by the millennials and and the zennials and the boomers in Pakistan. Again, this was all the generations came together to fight the system under Imran Khan, and it's the same 3 generations that continued the fight when this system was imposed. And again, the fight is not just against, you can't say that this is the zennials or the millennials against the boomers. In this case, it is all the generations together, where they're split off, where you have one against the other. So we have to understand that in Pakistan, it's not Gen Z versus the government or the system. And similarly in India too, it's not Gen Z versus the government or the system. In Bangladesh too, it wasn't Gen Z versus the government and the system. These were ongoing struggles for decades. And that is why in Bangladesh, Gen Z had their backup. Their parents backed them up. Their grandparents backed them up, because this was a struggle through decades. So they did not stop their children, because they themselves were struggling against it. In India, too, the reason why the parents and the grandparents and the uncles and the aunts and everybody backed up the students was because they, too, have been struggling against the system for decades. Since Modi came, they've been struggling. So in Pakistan, too, since Imran Khan was ousted, since we started the movement of making Imran Khan prime minister, despite the rigged elections, even then, despite him artificially losing 2/3 majority, despite the fact that he actually won those 2/3 majority, but they sabotaged and hijacked the elections right from the start, as always. Since then, our struggle never ended. It continued. But the problem is, in Pakistan, it comes in waves. Why? Because, as I said, in Pakistan, it's not a generation that is fighting against the system. It is three generations, and now a fourth has come in. So it's four generations fighting divided, where you have four generations of one mindset on one side, and then you have those four generations of an enslaved, corrupt mindset on the other side. For example, just look at the whole Sarhad University incident itself. Majority of the people are against the army, right? Gen Z obviously reading the whole situation and going through the same thing as the others are also against the army. And then the army has also been encroaching upon educational institutions time and again, going in to give their stupid, useless lectures that nobody wants to listen to. And then stopping students from asking pertinent questions or arguing with them, stopping freedom of speech and censorship of the internet, which again was something that Imran Khan gave a huge boost to. Pakistan saw itself as an IT powerhouse under Imran Khan. Go figure. I mean, Pakistan was already into the whole social media thing. It was already a sort of an unofficial powerhouse. But under Imran Khan, it officially became an IT powerhouse because he endorsed it. He used it in his political campaigns because he had young people with him. He represented the youth, which was at that time us. We were the youth, and remember, we were the whole IT people. We were the ones who worked with the internet. It's our generation that created, again, I'll remind you, the whole remote job accesses and starting businesses online and this and that, facilitating all of that. So he endorsing that, he making that possible, he putting it out there officially on the map, turning Pakistan into number 3 in global freelancing rank. And him not allowing Pakistan to break down during COVID, that was one of his biggest successes. The emergency protocols that he put, where he did a smart lockdown, which the West was scrambling. And literally, it's on the record how the Western governments approached Imran Khan, asking him for a blueprint as to how he designed and implemented the smart lockdown and how it would help them. He was a trendsetter. Okay, both in the East and the West. He was a trendsetter. And obviously it scared the bejesus out of everybody how powerful he was, and how he was going to, again, turn Pakistan into what they did not want Pakistan to be, a 100% sovereign, independent, and neutral state that would have the power to choose. So, as I said, on this side you have now the students, the Sarhad University students, who protested against what they felt was, something that was wrong. In their eyes, their professor was, he was blamed for something that he didn't do. Okay? In their eyes, the employee of the HR department made false claims. And they tried to side with him. They tried to take his side, and in turn they were faced with actually harassment on her part. And then she immediately decides to abuse her power, being the wife of a colonel or a brigadier, whoever the heck he is, and she abuses his power. And this is again something we've seen time and again, where children and wives of the military personnel will be abusing their power because they know that the military is in power. And this is why I've always said that the whole outfit is corrupt. You see? Again, you think you don't have Gen Z in the military? You don't have Gen Z in the police? What are they doing there? It's not a generation fight. It's a system, mindset fight. It's a struggle against a certain mindset and a certain system. On the one hand, you have a mindset that thinks that it is better to endorse something that is wrong for worldly benefits. And these are the touts. And again, you will see Gen Z in it too. If you go on social media platforms, Instagram, and even in LinkedIn. I mean, God help us all that they've even actually tried to encroach upon LinkedIn, where, by the way, they do not have much power, mashallah, till now, because the majority of the people in LinkedIn, um, they have this no nonsense policy, and when they catch these touts, then they just go all out. They don't have time for them. And on Instagram, even regarding this incident, I was seeing that there were 3 4 different people, and strangely all of them seemed to have a female gender account, as in their names were females, and all of them had copy pasted one exact same reply or comment under this whole incident wherever it was reported. Exact copy paste, not a single word here or there. And I even asked one of them, I'm like, okay, so how many of you are there copy pasting this draft? Where they were siding with the female employee, saying that she's a highly esteemed, these are the words they used, highly esteemed employee, and she was harassed and this and that, and then there were the journalistic touts who are now, so these Instagram touts and the LinkedIn touts and this social media touts here, these are your Gen Z, by the way, who have been hired by the army and hired by Maryam Nawaz's that youth program. Yes, they're part of that youth program. This is what they're hired to do, imagine. And on the other hand, you have the journalistic touts who are boomers and, mostly boomers. Okay. So you see them, and some of them are millennials and some of them are Gen Z too, but majority are boomers and zennials and millennials. And what are they doing? They are literally now endorsing what the army personnel did, what the person did. They're brandishing his gun all over. And they were like, oh, he was defending his wife's, self-respect. Yeah, what do you think Imran Khan was doing then? Why is it that Imran Khan defending his wife's self-respect and reputation is different, and why is it that army personnel defending his wife's reputation and self-respect is different? How is it that is endorsed and this isn't? Look at the two-faced, look at the hypocrisy here. And when you move on, you will see that they have done this time and again. Every time they would slander Imran Khan's wife, they would slander all the females of PTI party, they would slander the females of the Pakistani public. They have raped, since this government, every time this government comes, you will see a whole systematic, sex trafficking ring going on. You will see child pornography going on. You will see rapes and blackmailing of females, be they students, be they in government universities, or be they employees in government organizations, or even private organizations that are connected to government bureaucracy. Or you will see just random happenings of so and so politician kidnapping and raping a girl. Even as we know, latest they decided to go so bold as to even rape 2 foreign girls. So this is what you're getting from this government. You're getting a constant humiliation, degradation, and insult and lack of respect for women, while your CM is a woman. When our prime minister was a woman, Benazir Bhutto, you never would have faced that. Forget that. We have had male prime ministers and presidents throughout, and they have never dared to do that. But you suddenly have these low lives, like Maryam Nawaz and Asim Munir, who show you what family background they belong to. And then it reminds you that, yes, actually, family background, economic, social background really does matter. It really does matter, like it or not. And because they're showing it to you that, look, the background that they originally came from, this is the kind of people that they are because of that background. This is the kind of people their parents are. This is the kind of people their grandparents were. And now this is how they are. And so, again, where is the generational gap here? You see what I mean? It's a mindset. It's not a fight of one generation against another. Not in Pakistan, at least, and not in other countries like Pakistan. In such countries, it's a fight of mindset. It's one mindset against the other. You have the tout mindset that thinks that, oh, it doesn't matter if the whole country goes to hell, it doesn't matter, everything goes to hell, as long as we get some benefit and we are safe and sound, and as long as we, it's like those turncoats who licked the British boots, and those same feudal lords who became feudal lords because of the British, they decided to continue lording it over Pakistan, despite the fact that they never wanted Pakistan, they never fought for Pakistan, they never struggled for Pakistan. Same as the pro-Japanese in South Korea, the Japanese sympathizers. They are still the elites. They're still the politicians. They have still saved their assets and their wealth. They're still thriving, whereas the freedom fighters, they died. Their children are living in obscurity and poverty, unknown, unclaimed. The same story is everywhere, especially everywhere where you've had the Western hand, where you've had America and Britain and France, that the story is there everywhere in their post-colonial outfits. I'll call them outfits because they're really countries only in name. So this is where we stand, where you have one mindset that says that, oh, as long as we're safe and sound, as long as our families are, as long as we can now send our children abroad. And soon you will hear that. Soon you will hear that certain army personnel's wives and children are going abroad for study purposes, and the wives are following them, the children who are going there for study purposes. Sometimes you wouldn't even hear about the wives until they've already reached there. 6 months later, you'll find out, oh, they're already there. And you will hear about different family members of different people going and leaving the country, and you will know that means that they have wrapped things up and that we're now about to get fucked, okay, basically. So that is doomsday time. And then at the end, you will see that suddenly Nawaz Sharif will go to England for health purposes, and then Zardari will suddenly be sitting in Dubai, and then their grandchildren will have already moved. Some are moving, some are already moved, and similarly, slowly, one by one, until these key figures are left. And when these key figures suddenly fly out, you wouldn't even know. You will know when they're already flying out. That, oh, they're on their way there. And they will not come back. And then you will know that you have been officially handed over to the West to be used and abused for their war-mongering strategies. So that mindset, knowing this, is, sticking to the winning side, basically. That's what they're doing. And then there's this other mindset that is fighting against them, that is saying that, no, why? Why should we compromise on our life for you people over and over again? Why should we not be allowed to speak up? Why should we not have, freedom to choose? Why are you interfering with our institutions? Why are you coming in and interfering? Why are you abusing your power? Just because now your husband is in the army, it means you can do whatever you want. Or just because your wife is in the army, it means you can do whatever you want. Or children will say, oh, because our parents are in the army, it means you can do whatever you want. So instead of treading carefully, for example, Asim Munir has deployed army for 6 months in Islamabad, in Pindi, where they already have a GHQ. Why? Obviously, it's because when now he will start with his ceremonial activities, he cannot have any sort of defiance or rebellion. So that is probably one reason. And as this is something that I've been saying right from the start, off the bat, that the army is now going to take over Islamabad and fortify it and use it as their base to conduct all their activities. And you will see that happening over and over again. So this is not a Gen Z against the army fight. This is a multi-generational fight of one mindset against the other. It's a fight of an enslaved mindset and a resisting mindset. It is a fight between the selfish and those who are struggling to genuinely have a good life in a country that they should be proud of, in a free system. Okay, so there is that mindset that's looking at the bigger picture, And then there is the mindset that is looking at their own personal benefits. That is simply what it is. So it's going to be a tough fight, is what I'm saying, because it has been going on for years. And again, so the people who are betraying Imran Khan, you have Gen Zs amongst them. This Suhail Afridi, what is he? Isn't he Gen Z? Who we literally want to smack right now. You know, there are a lot in Imran Khan's party alone, where you see that all the people who are backstabbing him, they again span through generations. You have the boomers, you have the millennials, and you have Gen Z. And they're all stabbing him in the back. They're all looking at their own benefits, their own worldly, personal benefits. It's a mindset, okay? It's a struggle of two mindsets, not generations. Well, this is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.